topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready to take a journey? Let's connect with the healers of the world. It's that time. It's time for the Language of Healing on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Now here's your host, Emotional Wisdom Training Specialist Nicole Fortin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Language of Healing on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV network. We're here talking about a continuation on protocols for energy hygiene. If you didn't catch the first part one, strongly recommend going back to take a listen to that so you have a little bit of context of what we're getting into. But essentially, energy hygiene is how do we keep our energy field clear and, spacious, but having that clear boundary, like something that's very supportive to us. And how do we utilize this energy field around us? Because we all have a resonant field and we're not often taught how to use it to our advantage, and also being trained to have the awareness around what is happening in those realms. So something, you could be taking care of your physical body very well through, like clean eating, drinking water, getting sleep, exercising. And sometimes things are still around, right? There's still some lingering thing, like what's not feeling right about this. You still have those cringy moments or those, worries and anxieties. And that's what we're addressing today. That's the idea, or, my understanding around these protocols for energy hygiene. This is the work from James Kawainui, who is our guest today. He's a native Hawaiian healer with strong ancestral roots in traditional Hawaiian healing. His family comes from a line of shamans, and he's just quite natural at this and communicating it. I love speaking with him, and what a great guest. His passion is helping people live pain-free, passion-driven, and purpose-filled lives. How nice is that? to really live that and fully show up in the world, in your life as that always. And a big part of that is knowing how to cleanse your energy and how to master it, so to speak. So this is some training ground. So let's welcome our guest, James Kawainui. Hello, James.
Aloha, Nicole. How are you?
Aloha. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, had a good week.
Yeah, you have had a good week. You got some time off, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I took a little holiday. Yeah, reconnected with some friends. Yeah. But yeah, as I was saying, that the skies are so smoky, I'm not sure if you're affected by any of those forest fires going on this year.
No, it's a really
You're in Sedona
for us. Yeah, I'm in northern Arizona in Sedona, and I've have clients on the East Coast. I have some clients in Canada, and even people that I know that are in Colorado, and they're talking to me about the smoke and how hazy it is. I talking with a friend this morning in North Dakota, and she was talking about how hazy it is and actually how dry it's been up there. That they're already harvesting for the fall because they didn't have any kind of a growing season, And talking to somebody yesterday in Boston, and they were telling me about the sky being so hazy that the sun is orange, and you can actually look at the sun because of the filtering of the smoke. Here in Arizona, it's blue skies. And we've been blessed because we've had rain every day for the last 3 or 4 days, and we have rain in the forecast for the next week or so, which is, for Arizona, it's unusual, but we didn't have a monsoon last year, and we have a monsoon this year. So we're getting rain that we desperately need and haven't had for a while. So
Interesting.
Touch
Yeah.
wood, they say, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is quite dry. Yeah, but it's interesting how it does diffuse around all the areas and different climate changes. And
Yeah.
anyways, so I'm not sure if I do, like, when I'm explaining these protocols for energy hygiene, what is your idea around what energy hygiene is?
I mean, that's a good question, Nicole. And for me, energy hygiene is just being aware of where I am inside of my energy field and where I am in my energy field in relationship to the things and the people that are around me. And so most people, and I'm just talking generally, and I'm talking based on my experience of the work that I do with people and my experience inside of myself, is that we are very porous. We are not vessels at all, but we are more like sponges. And we're constantly absorbing the energy and, if you want to, the frequency and the vibration of the things that are around us, right? And I'm not going to say but, and at the same time, not having a very clear awareness of the effects that it may be having on us on a not just a day-to-day basis, but a moment-to-moment basis. I think that one of the stories that I related to you last week is that both Ashana and I have gained a level of sensitivity. Like if I'm driving, especially if we're in a new place, or if I'm driving in a town or someplace, actually being tuned in to the point where I actually feel the energy change sometimes from block to block. And we'll both look at each other. And we've had this happen many times before, where we're driving along and all of a sudden I look at her and I said, the energy just changed. And she said, yeah, I was wondering about that. Most people don't pay attention to their daily life in that way. And so we are constantly, I call it being bombarded by energy around us. And the consequences of that can be far reaching, and over time can be detrimental. And so if you look at it in one way, think about living in an environment where there is constant sound, right? Sound is coming into our system, and the sound, what the sound is doing is actually affecting my vibration and my frequency to the point that it may throw me off completely, and it doesn't allow me to be grounded or centered or to be clear and to make clear decisions on things. So I use sound because it's one thing that people understand, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like frequencies do cancel each other out, right? That's the idea of, like, if you have pain and you take a pain medicine, it's just canceling it, but through sound and through other forms of healing, we can achieve this as well. So
Yeah,
is it maybe like,
go ahead.
maybe then it's coming in at you anyways, but maybe it's like the skill of not letting a lower frequency, take you down, or
maybe it's not
scatter.
looking at it, maybe it's not looking at it as lower or higher. It's just looking at it as frequency being that I'm being affected by, and one, becoming aware of that, of how its effects, and then two, being able to learn how to mitigate it. And you said that, you explained this really correctly. We have a field of energy, and some people look at their energy as their aura, or the field of energy that's around us. And can I become aware of that field of energy so that I can actually boost that energy up? And that's one of the things that I wanted to do today. We talked about ahead of time, was doing a short meditation to help people with that. But as far as the explanation goes, it's noticing how my emotions may change during the course of my day, especially if I move from space to space, like feeling sometimes anxious and anxious and uncertain. Like if I walk into a grocery store, if I'm in a big venue at a concert, this is really one way to understand how energy affects us, right? So if you ever been to a big concert or a big sporting event, the um, the forward kicks a goal and they score a goal in football, and the crowd cheers and everybody cheers, and so there's this huge rush of this energy, right? Or he kicks a penalty kick and he misses, and everybody goes, oh, and you feel
Mhm.
it's an exaggerated form, but that's what's happening. I'm feeling the flow of the energy around me, right? At a concert, everybody's singing a happy song, everybody's happy. So the performer's singing a sad song, everybody's crying. We're all feeling the energy of not only of what the song and what's happening, but we're also feeling the energy of the people around us. I think that's the
Mhm.
level that most people don't pay attention to.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's what we talked about last week. That's maybe almost the first step is noticing that it doesn't all belong to you. Like that, you're actually picking up things that are around you. And I'm visualizing this as you're talking about this like concert, and that it is a performance. You're just like observing this orchestra or
Yeah,
this play out.
yeah.
But and you can just enjoy that experience or see it as an experience without taking it on, because
Well, they talk about collective energy, and so when we're in a group of people, there's that collective energy of all the people that are in the group, right? And we have this what we consider the collective energy, which is collective energy of humanity as well. So in pretty much in every moment, we're being affected or inundated by any number of those kinds of energies. And so you're right. The first step is awareness, right? So can I create an awareness that these things are happening to me and there might be an effect of how I'm reacting or how my physical form and my energetic form is responding to it, right? And then one of the things, and we'll kind of cover a little bit because I think it makes sense to review some of this, is if or when I feel some energy coming towards me, or if I'm going through my day and my energy changes, right? And then I recognize that my energy changes rather abruptly. Can I get myself to the point where I start to look at that and go, wait a minute, my energy just changed. Did I change and do something, or am I picking something up from somebody outside of me or somewhere from outside of me? And in that moment, then, of that recognition, I can do one of two things. I can just let that energy come and wash over me, and it becomes who I am. And then there's another side of that where I recognize that this energy is coming towards me, and I look at it and go, wow, I see and I sense this energy. And I know that I can make a choice in this moment not to take that on. And that's a big step for people to just look at that, because we're so used to just absorbing, that to even come to the place that says, wait a minute, do I really want to take that on? I feel and understand your anger. Do I need to take your anger on? No. It's good that I understand your anger, and I don't need to be angry with you or for you,
Hmm.
right? And so
Okay,
then,
James, I
yeah,
have
go ahead, go
this
ahead.
example because we're talking about this last week, right? And then so I was heading out of town, and I could feel like I felt so rushed, and like I wanted to drive fast. I just wanted to get out of the city. People were in my way, and like get out of my way. But then I had the awareness of like, okay, where, I wasn't like this when I got in my car, and this isn't, it's the energy of driving, and maybe it's, Friday afternoon. Everyone kind of wants to get out of town. Everyone, nobody's driving fast enough. There's construction. And then it was just interesting. So once I left that bubble of the city, it was
Yeah,
like, it just opened up. And it was interesting to notice myself in that.
yeah, you change,
Yeah.
and we don't realize it, right? Yeah, everybody's like this, and they're behind the wheel, and it's bumper to bumper, and I want to get home, and then all of a sudden you feel yourself doing the same thing, and you look around and go, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing as everybody else, right? And does it help me get home faster? Probably not. So what happens if in that moment, and this is really a good thing, how do I interrupt that energy? And so in that moment of that recognition of go, wait a minute, everybody's rushing. I can feel the tension around me. I'm recognizing in this moment that it's not all mine, although it's becoming mine, right? Let me just take a breath. Let me just push my energy or move my energy outwards just enough so that I can be aware of the energy around me, but I'm not having to experience it myself. I believe that's the key. And you're right. The farther you got out of the city, the less you felt that tension. And then you got all the way out into where you were wanting to be, and you're next to the lake, or you're at the cabin, or you're out in nature, and then all of a sudden you just feel yourself go, ah.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
So this, with the meditation and your training, because I imagine that you have to have this like grounding point or something that's familiar in the body, like that it knows how to get back into that, state of neutral observer, choice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, is that kind of what your
Well, yeah.
meditation's designed for?
What is that? Right? And
What is
everybody can, yeah, everybody can do this, and it's the easiest and the simplest thing, right?
Yeah,
Focus
let's
on
do it.
Focus on your breath. I tell people this, and they look at me and they said, "Can't be this easy, James." And I say, "Yes, it can." Right? So if we're having a very rushed day, if like I can feel myself losing control, or it feels like I'm overwhelmed, or whatever it is, right? Usually what's happening is that in that moment you are in your head and not in your body. And you would be amazed how many people live from here up. And that would be the greater majority of people. Most people
Well, I
have,
see it all the time in practice too. The tension that sits like shoulders, neck, but it's really like because it's kind of cut off from the rest of the body.
no
So
energy flowing
breathing,
through you. Yeah.
yeah, breathing is number one. And again, something that we're not really trained how to do. And
Because it happens automatically,
right,
we're not paying attention to it. And so when we
right.
bring it into conscious awareness, in other words, I become present with my breathing. And if we just did this, everybody did this for the next 10 or 15 seconds, right? Eyes open, eyes closed, it doesn't matter. All I want you to do is to focus and feel your breath as it goes in and out of your body. Okay? So feel the air as it moves through you. Feel the air as it expands in your lungs. Feel the air as you exhale, right? Just that's rhythm. I breathe in. I feel the air move through me. I exhale. I feel the air as it leaves. That becomes all of my focus. My total focus is on that movement and that rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. 20 seconds. Feel the difference?
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of an ocean, just
It is. And that's the reason why the ocean is so common, because we're watching the waves advance and recede, and it's almost like breathing in and breathing out. In that moment, our focus is on that movement of the ocean, of the breathing in and that rhythm of in and out, right? It takes us out of our mind, literally, because now what I'm doing is I'm having a visceral experience of my breath and of the things that are around me. And that's key to slowing down. And that's key actually also to creating my energy field. So
right.
I want to do a really quick meditation because we ran out of time last week and I don't want to run out of time this week for this. So if we can just take a few minutes and have everybody just gently close their eyes.
Right.
Take a clearing breath. In other words, draw a nice deep breath in. And then as you exhale, just let go and consciously let go of whatever it is that you're holding on to in this moment. Now, take another deep breath in. Consciously let go of whatever you're holding on to. And then find a rhythm that feels comfortable for you. And start to focus on your breath. Start to focus on the feeling and the experience of the air as it moves in. The experience of the air as my lungs expand and contract. I'm giving myself permission to follow my breath and to let go as best as I can of everything else. In this movement of this breath, I let go of my day. I let go of the things that I need to do. I let go of that phone call or the next thing on my list. As I focus on the experience of breathing, I become more aware of my body. I can actually feel the breath in my chest. I feel the rise and fall of my chest as I breathe in and I breathe out. If a thought floats in or tries to come in, without judgment, look at it and let it go. And there's a conscious choice inwardly that says, I'm coming back to focus on my breath in this moment. Notice the difference, if you can, of what feels or what's shifted inside of your body. Maybe you feel a drop in the tension in your shoulders. Maybe you feel the unwinding of the heaviness or the energy that's been sitting in your solar plexus. These things become more aware or more available to me when I'm not in my busy mind. I actually realize I have a body. I actually realize that I can feel my breath. So as I'm focusing on my breath, then in your mind's eye, so you can see it, as in some people say in your third eye. In your third eye is an image, and the image is of a very large, clear quartz crystal egg. The egg is taller than you are. And if you were to put your hands on your hips with your elbows pointing out to the side, that's about how big your egg is. This clear quartz crystal egg that we're talking about is absolutely pristine. You're seeing all the way through it. It's bright, it's shiny, it's luminescent, and it's about arm's length away from you. If it weren't for your putting your attention on it, you may not even have recognized it, because it would have been like looking through a plate glass window. So take a few seconds and get accustomed to the feeling of that egg in front of you. And you can reach out with your hand, or you can reach out with your awareness, and you can feel the texture on the outside of the egg. Is it smooth or is it rough? Is it wavy? You have the experience that you have feeling your egg, because what you're creating is something that belongs to you. Notice how your energy is changing as you come into relationship with that clear quartz crystal egg in front of you. Good. Now take 2 steps and step into the center of that egg. So feel yourself step, and then as you step, the second step, you feel yourself move through the membrane of that clear quartz crystal egg, and now you're standing in the center of it. Now take a few seconds and feel the egg as it surrounds you. There's even enough room, if you wanted, that you can turn around in a circle so that you can have a sense of the egg as it sits around you. As soon as you stepped into the space, what you did is you created this resonant energy, or you created this energy field around you. And inside of this field, what you've done is you said, this I claim for myself. The space inside this egg is me and me only. Everything and everybody else is outside of that space. I'm creating a safe space for my energetic field inside this quartz crystal egg. Notice, if you can, not only what changed around you, but if there is anything that changed inside. Does your energy feel different? Does your energy around you feel different? This is the key to this egg, is noticing the change that happened when you step inside of it. We've created a space that says, this belongs to me and me only. I see and I understand everybody else on the outside, but nobody steps in here unless I give them permission. And when you get ready, you can open your eyes. Tell me what that feels like to you, Nicole.
What I noticed through that, when we breathe in, when I would breathe in, it's like a settling in my hips. I feel like that anchors me down. And then the breath can go into my legs and it fills the whole body versus just that upper quadrant when we're in that head space, head bubble.
Yeah.
And in the egg of clear quartz crystal, I felt really supported. Like I felt, in my energy field, I feel like the past is on my left side and the right is is the future, in a timeline.
Yeah.
I felt more supported by but I had a pull towards the future versus being like pulled from the past, that's what I experienced, what I noticed.
And that's good. And you're right. We didn't have a lot of time. And had I gone deeper into the meditation, we would have talked about that, about bringing your energy farther and farther down into your body. Because really where you want to anchor your energy is as best as possible in your pelvic space, right? You want that energy to be anchored inside of you, because it's from that place that we can create. It's from that place that we feel safe. The energy of the egg, as we create that, what we're doing is we're really taking charge and says, nothing gets to enter into my field unless I give it permission. And the more you do this, and I swear to you, because this is the response and the feedback that I get from people and from me doing it for the years that I've been doing this, you will feel the energy come towards you. It'll hit the outside of the egg, and it'll literally feel like the energy goes around you. You're still aware of it as it's happening, but you're not having to have the personal, energetic, emotional experience of whatever that is, as you are aware of it. And I think that's the biggest shift inside of this. And I tell people, once you learn your crystal egg, you don't go anywhere without it. It's something that you do as part of your practice in the morning. It's like it's no different in some ways than getting dressed for the day. I get dressed for the day. Here's my egg, and I take it with me. If I'm on my way to work, or if I'm in my car and I get to my destination, I may want to check in to see what it feels like. If I'm walking into a grocery store, if I'm going into a big venue, I will check and see what it feels like. Through the course of my day, I do this even before I make phone calls sometimes, to contain my energy so that I stay inside of myself. What I've learned that it does is it gives me a greater awareness of the things that are outside of me without me having to experience what that is. And it actually helps me to see farther and have a broader perspective. So for me, when I work with people, it gave me the ability to have more compassion, because now I can see more of the picture of that person or what's happening in front of me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like the image around the clear quartz, because we know that is like a very strong and powerful communication tool. You know, they
Clear.
put it in the telephones, like, you know, or we got like the ancient the crystal skulls. You know, the
All
who
of it.
knows what they're about, but holding, it's like you step into a realm that has all the information, right? Like
Yep.
it's all of you, and you know, greater perspective. It's almost like magnified. So then that, I guess, you know, maybe we could touch on, I don't know if this will naturally flow into it, but the difference between the sympathy and the empathy that we talked about last time too. And so when you're in this space, you know, without having, or how do I even put this? Because everything is then magnified, right? Amplified. You have a greater sense. You have to be even more clear about that boundary. That,
Right.
you know, because if you are like, you know, being naive or not aware of it is almost easier, because then you're not gonna unnecessarily pick stuff up. Does that make sense? Like, am I making? Do you get what I'm
Yes.
going on?
It absolutely makes sense. So coming back to what you said in the beginning, I want to talk about the sympathy and the empathy. I want to talk about the egg first. Okay. So if you think about the components of clear quartz crystal, so everything has an energy of it, right? Clear quartz crystal does three things: it stores, it amplifies, and it transmits energy. And so when I'm standing inside of my egg, I'm storing my energy, right? And I'm transmitting it, and I'm expanding it. And when we get inside the egg, and this is something that people ask me, and I really want to talk about this really quickly. It's not that I'm separating myself from the world. What I'm doing is I'm creating a space where I can move through the world without having to feel the world around me. And so it in some ways will amplify the things that are happening, but amplifying it so that I recognize it, not amplify it so I feel it. Right?
Right.
Store my energy so that I actually have more energy for myself to be able to create the things that I want to create. Okay. In the terms of sympathy and empathy, what it does is, I think when we talked about this last week, I just kind of touched on it briefly. Sympathy is when I feel your pain. Empathy is when I understand your pain. The game changes because if I'm feeling what you're feeling, then I'm caught inside of whatever emotion you are in. If I understand where you are, it gives me an idea of what, you know, it gives me an idea, a way of going, oh, wow, I wonder why you feel this way. I wonder what happened to you. I wonder how you came to this place to be like feeling this way inside of you, right? For me, empathy created more compassion because now I'm understanding my world in a different way. I'm not reacting to my world through the emotional reactions, the fear, the envy, the anger, whatever it is that's happening. Does it change the way that I feel the positive energies like happiness and joy and satisfaction and all of those? Yes, it will. And I will be able to recognize those, and then I can go, okay, cool. Those are energies that I do want to emanate. Those are the energies that I do want to live my life with. Let me allow myself. I will pull those into my field and make those energies stronger. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Explaining it
Yeah.
that way?
Yeah, I see it as once you're in the egg, you know, maybe there's a control panel that you can press buttons and plug in what you want, right? Like
Yep.
today I'm going to program, even if you wanted like a hue, a different color, like I want to surround, you know, myself in a golden luminescent egg, or, you know, I kind of want to play with it a little bit more. Like that's how my mind works, is like plug it into, you know, transmitting the joy, happiness, you know, empathy.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
exactly, because now I'm able to be aware of the energy that I am and the energy that I want to transmit or emanate, right? And so that makes complete sense. And in that way, then I become more aware of the things that are happening around me. So I become more aware of when the energy is coming towards me. I become more aware of how people may be feeling, right?
It's like being more curious, like asking, I like that, wondering what might have happened to get them there, or like, oh, I wonder what, what
Well,
else, what more.
from the standpoint of being a practitioner and helping people, I'm always in that inquiry space, right? Because I'm listening or watching or talking to people about where they are in their lives, and I hear what they're saying, and I'm in some ways I'm looking past that and going, wow, there's anger here. Where's the anger coming from? Who is it about? How long has the anger been there? Is it even your anger? Those are all the questions that I'm asking, as I work with people. I don't walk around all day looking at everybody doing that.
Right.
That's out of integrity. When I'm
Yeah,
working
right.
with people, it's because somebody's asked me for the help, and we are sitting inside of the space together to create that. Other than that, people are doing what they're doing, and this may be an observation, especially if I feel like it may impact me from whatever that energy is, right?
Yeah, so there is a distinction between when you're like on, or like supporting someone when you're, especially, well, I know you're like the majority of your clientele are, practitioners, health practitioners, and are, working with a lot of people. But how about when you're, supporting a friend or a family member, because like then when you care about somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you want, so, maybe it's that paradigm of like supporting someone. We think that I kind of need to feel what you're feeling, but being in the egg is also supportive in the sense that you're giving the other egg, seeing them in their egg and giving them the space to, but still questioning, because I think the questions can be very thought provoking and maybe help someone out of a spin, or if you are just in general supporting somebody.
What you're talking about is holding space, and so
Yeah.
it's in some ways it's a variation of the energetic protocols, holding space for other people. Okay,
Okay.
so when example for me. So this may be a little bit more than we wanted to talk about, but maybe it's important. When I'm working with someone, what I do before that is I create a space, and I say this space that I'm creating is for this healing work that I'm doing with this person. Okay, as I'm doing that, then what I'm doing is I in some ways I took my egg and I went like this on the outside of the both of us, and I say, okay, whatever is on the outside of us, we're not going to let it affect what's happening in this moment. In spite of that, what's happening is I'm sitting inside of my egg and I'm going, okay, I'm aware of what they're feeling, and I may be aware of where they are inside of themselves, and I'm choosing not to take any of that on at the same time. And as I create this space, then it gives me the opportunity then to see people where they are inside the energy that they are, and from a place where I call it being more neutral, because now I'm not taking on or giving any energy. All I'm doing is neutral, observing whoever this person is that I'm working with, right? And maybe that's what you're talking about in some ways, is that neutrality, because when I'm neutral, then I'm not taking on energy. And that's something that's really important, especially for practitioners. Most practitioners, and the old paradigm of healing is taking the energy off of or away from whoever it is. And then what I notice in my journey around that is that I would just call them the old times healers, okay? Because I was working with a lot of old Hawaiian masters and other people that I came in contact with. They would take that energy and then they would take it on, and then they knew how to transmute it and let it go. What I was also seeing is that they, especially the ones that were older, okay, and I came into the game late, but I was looking at people that were in their 60s and their 70s, and they were doing this healing work. And what was happening was that years of taking on the energy and then transmuting it was actually having very detrimental effects physically on their bodies. And I looked at that and I went, well, wait a minute, I'm going to have to learn how to do it this a different way, or else this is going to be a very short career for me, because I came to this, when I was around 50, right? And so having to learn a different way. So creating a space for the energy as the energy is cleared, as the person, because now what's happening is I'm talking to this person. They are coming to a place inside of them where they're recognizing the energy that they may be holding. And then what happens is that they have the opportunity then to hold on to it or let go of it. Now I'm empowering this person to want to change their energetic frequency or change their vibration through recognition of what they've been holding on to and realizing that they have the ability to let it go. Changes the energy, because now they're empowered. They're empowering and they're taking charge of their own healing.
Yeah.
I don't do any healing. People come to me and said, I want you to fix me. And I said, well, that's not going to happen, because I don't fix anybody or I don't heal anybody. I may show you what's going on in your life, and you get to choose what you do with it. Does that make sense? And I've had lots of stories about that. And I don't know if we have time for a quick story. Do we have time for a quick story?
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I worked with this woman a few years ago. She lived in Sri Lanka, and she was living in a monastery, and she reached out to me. And when she was younger, when she was in her teens, she got so sick that she actually, from the flu, that she actually went blind and deaf. It took her about 4 years to regain her sight, but she never fully regained her hearing. And when I met her, she was in her 60s. And so she had really acute tinnitus. So the ringing in her ears was really loud, and it never went away. And it was inundating, and it had affected her life all her life. I worked with her a few times, and in one particular session that we did, we got her to look at the tinnitus, and she came to an understanding inside of herself of why that was there. And this amazing thing happened. The sound went from being inside of her head, literally, and the sound went, and all of a sudden it was sitting on her left shoulder. I could actually feel the space where the sound, and she actually had the experience as well, that the sound was outside of her. And she said, I've never had that experience. The sound is outside of me, James. It's not inside of my head. I said, awesome. I said, now, are you ready to let that go? And she said, yes. And I said, so we worked, and she literally allowed it. And it moved down her arm, and I saw it, and it moved off of her fingers, and it was gone. It literally was gone. She had no sound in her head. There was the tinnitus disappeared. Okay. It lasted for about a heartbeat and a half, maybe 2 seconds. And then all of a sudden I felt it come back in, and I said, what happened? She said, it's back. And we talked through this a little bit more. And this is a really interesting thing. And this is what happens when we hold on to pain and trauma for long periods of time, right? When the sound disappeared, there was such an emptiness that it created inside of her that she lost her identity, because her whole identity, her whole life was that sound. And when it went away, she wasn't sure if she could live her life without that, because now it was a whole part of her was gone. So she had to bring it back in.
Mm-hmm. I love that story. And I think that's like when we talk about the new paradigm of healing, in the sense of taking responsibility for it and choosing to let it go, and choosing to, because I think that is a very difficult space. Then when it's gone, what do I identify with? I've had this chronic pain for years, and now that it's gone, what do I do? And there is room for, I think that's a big thing that shows up, and what stops or prevents like that true deeper, like really releasing it. Yep. So I know we are like wrapping up here, but I would imagine that's part of an energy protocol, is like what to do with the empty space. Because there is room for something to, to fill it.
All the magnificent things that you wanted to have happen in your life. Now we have room for it. Right?
Yeah, maybe you need to have a list or a very clear desire of what it is that you want, to like move towards when that space opens up. Otherwise, you just revert back to old patterns, because that's not ingrained. Like that was a moment you said, a heartbeat and a half, but that's incredible. You notice that it can happen, right?
Yeah. And it's not about, it's about becoming clear, because it's not when it happens, it's as it happens. So so if you change the wording a little bit, is as I become clear about who I am, as I become clear about the energy that I hold on to or not hold on to, I will create the space. And it's funny because most people I work with will usually say this at some point inside of the session. And I say, so what feels different? And they said, I feel like there's more space inside of me. And the next thing I say is, don't be so quick to fill that space up. How about if you just left that empty space and you get to choose what you put inside of it? Do I want to put more trauma, pain, disruption, distortion in my life? Or can I sit long enough inside of the space, the emptiness, to look at that and go, wow, I actually want joy and happiness. I want this beautiful relationship. I want to feel prosperous and wealthy, right? And so have all of those things. And prosperous and wealthy is not about money. It's about how I feel about myself, right? Mm. So creating that space inside through recognizing how much of the energy that I have been taking on. And we can go, God, there's so much that we can talk about this, because now we can talk about the programming, okay? Really quick, I'll do this as fast as I can. Until you're 5 years old, you are a sponge and you're taking everything in your world, and everything is absolute truth. And so if there's distortion and things are happening, then that becomes your truth. So if your parents showed you pain through abuse and then turned around and said, I'm so sorry, I loved you, that's how you learn how to love. Okay, that's the quickest way I can say it. And so going inside, looking at where those patterns are and interrupting those patterns long enough so that you can go, wait a minute, that's not what love is. That's not how I want to live my life. All of that has to do with energy protocols, because the more aware I become of how the energy is moving through me, the more awareness I have of how I can realize that I have more control in my life than I thought I did. That's a good place for me to stop.
Yeah, beautiful. So wonderful. Yeah. So for our listeners and people tuning in here today and listening to the replay, you can find James at jameskawainui.com. That's James, James, Kawainui, Kawainui.com. And anything else, anywhere else that they can find you or find out more about this work?
I'm starting to be a little bit more present on Instagram. There's lots of things that I've put there. You can go to Facebook if you want to, and reach out to me that way. If you just want to have a conversation, you can just reach out to me at jameskawainui@gmail.com. I offer free 30-minute sessions for people. If there's something that's going on in your life, and you feel like you could use some guidance or some help, let me be that help. And if it's not me, realize that you can reach out for help. It's not weakness. It's knowing and realizing that I need help and then reaching out for that help is a sign of strength. It really is. So allow yourself that space, especially if it feels like it's challenging right now. And believe me, the world is challenging just the way it is right now. It is.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, James. Aloha, blessings, and thanks for joining us today. Hope you have a great weekend. For our listeners, what will you take with you from this conversation that will support you for the rest of your life?
Wow, what a show today, and the journey does not stop here. Come travel the world with Nicole every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time as together we become more fluent in the language of healing on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. See you next week.